The grand hall of Aveline Palace glittered like the heart of a star. Chandeliers dripped with crystal and gold, their lights scattering across marble floors polished to a mirror's shine. Gilded columns rose like frozen sunbeams, arching overhead, to meet painted ceilings that told the history of kings and queens long dead. That night, it seemed as though every noble of the kingdom had gathered beneath the soaring dome, their silks and velvets whispering like restless fire as they moved, faces hidden behind masks of feather, pearl, and jeweled enamel. It was the night of the Masque of Midwinter, a tradition older than memory, where rank blurred, faces were hidden, and for a few fleeting hours a servant might dance as though she were a queen. Eleanor had never dared imagine herself within those golden halls. She had polished their floors, dusted their candelabra, and scrubbed the soot from the enormous hearths, but never once had she looked upon the hall as one invited. Yet tonight, by some miracle, or perhaps some cruel trick of fate, she was here. Her mistress, the Marchioness of Harroway, had discarded last season's gown in a fit of dissatisfaction. Eleanor, too poor to ever dream of silks, had begged for the ruined dress. With a seamstress's patience, she had mended its torn hem, restitched the pearls that had loosened, and breathed new life into the crimson fabric. When she slipped into it beneath the flicker of her candle, she hardly recognized herself. And so, masked and trembling, she entered the masquerade as though she belonged. The music swelled, violins sharp and quick, a harpsichord bubbling beneath, the rhythm of 100 slippers tapping the marble floor, nobles spun in glittering arcs, gowns sweeping like waves upon the sea. Eleanor kept to the edges, her mask a simple strip of velvet, her hands clenched in the fabric of her gown to still their shaking. It was madness to be here, she knew it. One misstep, one pair of eyes that lingered too long, and she could be exposed. Servants who pretended at nobility faced more than humiliation. They faced punishment, dismissal, even prison for daring to rise above their station. Yet some hunger stronger than fear drove her forward. For just one night, she wanted to taste. The world denied to her. She never expected him. He emerged from the sea of dancers like the tide breaking upon shore, tall, straight-backed, moving with an ease that spoke of command rather than mere grace. His mask was crafted of gold filigree, curling like vines across his brow, but his mouth, uncovered, held the faintest curve of amusement, as though the masquerade were his stage, and he its lone true player. And then he saw her. Eleanor felt it like the weight of sunlight piercing a window. His gaze fixed upon her where she lingered in shadow. For a heartbeat she wanted to flee, to vanish into the crowd before he drew near, but her feet betrayed her, rooted by some force stronger than fear. He reached her with the assurance of one who had never been denied anything in his life. Without a word, he extended his gloved hand. Her heart thundered. To take it would be to step fully into a dream that could not last. To refuse might protect her from ruin, but it would chain her once more to the life of invisible drudgery. For the first time in her life, Eleanor dared. She placed her hand in his. The world tilted. The music swelled, and suddenly she was swept into the current of the dance. He moved with practiced ease, guiding her as though she had danced with him 100 times before. Eleanor, clumsy and untrained, found her steps mirroring his, as though her body had always known the rhythm. She scarcely breathed, afraid to break the spell. "Who are you?" she wanted to whisper, but her throat refused sound. His eyes, dark and intent behind the mask, searched hers. There was recognition there, though impossible. He could not know her. Yet the weight of his gaze made her feel seen for the first time in her life. Spin, step, glide. The dance carried them faster. Laughter and voices blurred around her. He leaned closer, the faint scent of cedar and winter smoke clinging to him. For a moment she forgot who she was, forgot the world beyond the music and the sweep of his arm. She was not a servant. She was not a shadow. She was simply a woman being held as though she were precious, and then fate betrayed her. In the whirl of the final turn, his mask slipped. It fell to the marble with a soft clatter, and the world stopped. Eleanor froze. Her breath caught in her chest. For staring back at her, unmasked, was the face every coin in the kingdom bore, the face of the crown prince of Aveline. The air itself seemed to vanish. Around them, whispers rose. Several courtiers gasped, recognizing him even as he stooped to reclaim the mask, but his eyes never left hers. Eleanor staggered back, terror flooding her veins. To dance with a noble was one thing. To steal a moment with the crown prince himself was a crime of unimaginable boldness. If anyone guessed she was a servant, her life would not be her own by dawn. The prince's expression was unreadable. Shock, intrigue, something darker flickering beneath. And then the music ceased. The dancers slowed. The silence rang louder than any trumpet. Eleanor's heart broke through her ribs. Without a word, she turned and fled. Her slippers echoed across the marble as she vanished into the labyrinth of corridors, the velvet gown clutched to her knees. Behind her, she thought she heard a voice, a single word, carried like a promise through the hush of the hall. Wait. But she did not. She ran, for in that single fallen mask her world had shattered. She had stolen the heart of the crown prince himself, and now the palace would hunt her as if she were prey.